What's up, bud? It's Rob. This is Apparel Success. And in this video here, I want to talk to you about when to hire people for your clothing brand. Just to be straight up with you, this is probably one of my biggest weaknesses up until this point. I'm a bit of a control freak when it comes to all the different aspects of my clothing brand and needing to do it all myself. And recently in the past year, I've had to let go of that and allow other people to help me in areas that I just shouldn't be spending my time on in order to take my clothing brand to much bigger levels. And so I want to share with you my specific experiences around this and the tipping point where I believe it just becomes too much to be doing everything on your own. I really hope that this video helps. Here it is. Apparel Success is sponsored by my buds over at Design Crowd. If designs are something that you struggle with, I really recommend that you give them a shot. These are some of the best-selling designs on my website, and I got them all made through Design Crowd. If you're interested, head over to designcrowd.com/apparel to learn about the special offer that I have for you, or simply use the discount code APPAREL when you post a project on Design Crowd. All right, so when it comes to when to hire people for your clothing brand, I want to give you a bit of a background for when I started having to hire people and how all of this unfolded for my own clothing brand so that you can hopefully avoid making the same idiotic mistakes that I've made and that you can make advancements and improve your clothing brand much quicker. Okay, so the way that my clothing brand started out is actually for the first 3 years, I had a partner and we started up the clothing brand together, and our roles were such that I was working on all of the front end marketing stuff. So I'd handle all of the social media, all of the advertising, all of the website creation, just basically anything involving the internet. And he would handle all of the financial stuff, all of the accounting, and then he'd also pack all the orders. And I think that this actually worked out really well because they're such polar opposites, right? And he had an engineering background, so he was a very structured type guy who was really good at that type of thing. And I have a philosophy background, so I'm kind of out there. I like the psychology. I like that sort of like the philosophy and the theorizing and the testing and just all of the front end creative stuff. And so that worked out really well for the first 3 years. After 3 years, we decided to part ways. He decided to continue his career doing something else, and I decided to take all of this on full time. And when I decided to take all this on full time, I really took a hit for the first year because I had to take on exactly what he was doing inside of the clothing brand on top of everything that I was doing. So I was packing all of the orders, doing all of the finances, handling all the social media marketing, basically everything that you have to do for your clothing brand. And one of the big mistakes that I made with this was not hiring somebody to handle all of these little tasks that really don't require any thought at all, like packing orders, where it's basically just a system and you sit down and you just do it and it takes however amount of time, but you don't have to think to do it. And I should have been hiring people to do that this whole time. But there's something about me that I'm sure some of you watching this have inside of you as well, where you like having that control. You like having the control where you're the one who's packing the orders. You know exactly how it looks. You know exactly how your product is arriving in your customer's hands, and that gives you a sense of comfort. What this is also doing is it's really hurting your ability to grow your clothing brand. Because by being this level of control freak, by not allowing other people to help you and taking that off of your hands, you're spending so much of your time in the nitty-gritty stuff that you really don't need to be doing, and it's really keeping you from expanding your clothing brand and focusing on growth and focusing on the next level. So fast forward to the past year and a half running my clothing brand, and I hired friends to be in charge of packing orders for my own clothing brand. And what this would look like is they'd come over for a few hours, they'd pack all the orders, and I'd pay them to help me do that so that I don't need to be spending my time packing these orders all the time. I mean, just really think about it. If all of your time is being spent packing orders and working on the areas of your clothing brand like folding clothes and folding inventory, how much of your time is going into growing your social media, working on your ads, understanding the ads better, understanding exactly who your market is, thinking about how you can expand, working on new designs, new collections, and just helping the whole operation become much bigger. You reach a point where this is going to be a massive plateau for you because you just can't grow any further doing it all on your own. So the way that I think that everybody should be looking at this, especially new entrepreneurs who have never faced this, is every situation is going to be unique based on what you need help with the most. Growing a clothing brand, likely one of those things will be having somebody come over to pack orders, having somebody to come over to fold all of your inventory and to organize it all for you so that you don't have to be doing that all the time. And then there's other things. I mean, what are you good at as an entrepreneur? The way to look at this is what area of your business requires the most amount of help? Where do you require the most amount of help? And then hire out for that position. You don't want to overcomplicate it, right? So for me, I needed a lot of help with packing orders, all the hands-on stuff. I also needed a lot of help with the accounting side because I just don't really have a strong competency when it comes to accounting. And I'd prefer if somebody was handling that very important part of my business who actually knows what they're doing. So I hired somebody to help me with the accounting for my clothing brand. And then I also am hiring somebody to help me with the customer support because there's so many emails coming in on a regular basis, people trying to change their orders around. Maybe they ordered a large hoodie and they want an extra large. They need to change their shipping address. They're wondering when a product comes in. They're wondering where their order is. They're asking for a tracking number. There's so many of these emails coming in on a regular basis that also started taking up a lot of my time. So it's like, all right, what are the areas that are fairly simple, that don't require too much thinking, that I can get help with, I can pay somebody to do for me, and then I can free up my time and focus on the areas of my clothing brand that I need to. Now, as a general rule of thumb for when you should start hiring people, I believe that up until the $100,000 to $200,000 per year mark in sales for your clothing brand, you can probably manage to pack all of the orders and handle all of the inventory on your own. You still might be a little bit overwhelmed getting around that $200,000 per year mark for your clothing brand. I had some months where I did like $45,000, $50,000 worth of sales where it was just overwhelming, and it was just too much for me to be doing on my own or even with some friends. And so what I'd say is that as you start to approach those numbers, $150,000, $200,000 a year for your brand, you start to become like all you're doing is packing orders and sending out orders, really start to consider having friends come over that you trust, that you like to spend time with, that you can just teach them how to do it, and you can take that off of your own hands, and that will free up so much of your time to focus on the areas of your clothing brand that you need to. For me, I reached a point where I didn't even want to have to hire people. I didn't want to have to get that whole operation going in my place, handle all the boxes coming in, all of the boxes going out, all of that stuff. And so I partnered with a fulfillment company in Toronto with a friend that I trust a lot, and he's managing all of the orders for my clothing brand. So it's essentially as if I've hired people, I've hired a full team to manage all of the orders and all of the fulfillment for my own clothing brand. But the luxury that you have at the beginning, if you're not getting a lot of orders yet for your clothing brand, is that you don't have to hire people for your brand, right? If you only have a dozen orders coming in a month, then chill, you don't need to hire anybody. You can definitely pack and send out those orders on your own. And it's really only once it starts to become overwhelming that I really hope that this video sort of made you realize that my experience with this is one of regret, where I wish I'd hired somebody earlier to help me pack and do all this stuff for my own clothing brand, and that it was really a flaw of mine to not do that earlier and recognize that this is a part of my brand, this is a part of my business that I have to let go of control of, because that was a big mental block of mine where I just wanted to have everything within my own control, everything's coming through me, and it's just a part of you that you just have to let go of at a certain point. So as of right now, I'm partnered with a fulfillment company out of Toronto. I have a designer that works for me and makes designs for my clothing brand every time I come out with a new launch. I also work through Design Crowd, the sponsor of this YouTube channel. I have an accountant, somebody who helps me with the accounting. I have a bookkeeper, somebody who does all of the bookkeeping. Those are two separate things. And then I also have somebody helping me with customer support to handle emails and things like that. And that really frees up my time for me to work on the advertising, for me to work on the sales, the email marketing, the website, all the things that I'm good at for my own clothing brand that will really help shape and mold the whole vision of my clothing brand moving forward. And I can really scale up my brand now because all of those little tedious tasks that were requiring my time are no longer a factor. And however many orders that I can drive for my clothing brand will be fulfilled on time and everything will flow really nicely. And it's a beautiful place to be at for my own clothing brand. It's given me a lot of relief to be at this point, and I really hope that this video gave you some insight into just sort of when this will start to happen for your own clothing brand, how to look at it, and just sort of how to move forward with it. If you got a lot of value out of this video, please hit the like button for me, and let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you haven't already, check out my free clothing brand marketing masterclass. All you have to do to get access is go to apparelsuccess.com/masterclass, and you can watch the whole thing for free. And if you've made it to this point in the video, I want to tell you about the closed Facebook group that we have with Apparel Success. There's a link in the description. Follow that link, join us in the group. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.